Right before I said I do, my older brother stood up in the middle of my wedding and said, "You stole her from me." And just like that, the ceremony turned into something else entirely. My name's Liam Carter. I'm 28. I was always the dependable one, the brother who paid bills on time, stayed in one relationship for more than 3 months, didn't crash a car or drop out of college. You know, the boring one that nobody brags about, but everybody calls when they're in trouble. My older brother, Ethan, is the opposite. 30, loud, magnetic, reckless. He's the guy people either fall in love with or instinctively avoid at parties. My parents? They adored him, said he was full of life, misunderstood, a little wild, but brilliant. Meanwhile, I was the straight line next to his fireworks, reliable, predictable, invisible. So when I got engaged to Jenna Reeves last year, I didn't expect anyone to throw a parade. I just hoped for a little peace, a clean slate. Maybe, for once, a celebration that didn't have to orbit around Ethan's drama. Jenna and I met at a tech conference in San Diego. She's smart, centered, the kind of woman who can balance spreadsheets and emotions in the same breath. We clicked. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't some rom-com moment. We just fit. And when I asked her to marry me, she said yes, without a second of hesitation. I should have known that peace doesn't last in families like mine. We decided on a quiet wedding in Charleston. Sunset ceremony, garden venue, 80 people max. I picked Ethan as my best man because I thought, maybe this could be a reset. Maybe giving him a role in this moment would mean something. That was my mistake. The ceremony was just starting. I was standing at the altar, palms sweaty but smiling. Jenna was walking down the aisle, her father beaming beside her, and all I could think was, this is it. This is the start of everything good. The music faded, she took my hand, and the officiant started speaking. Then, he stood up. Ethan. He didn't cough, or whisper, or clear his throat. He stood, right there in the second row, hands clenched, face pale with something I didn't understand at first. Rage, maybe, or heartbreak. And then he said it. You stole her from me. Time didn't stop. It shattered. Jenna froze. Guests looked around in stunned silence. My mother gasped. I felt like the floor was tilting beneath me. For a full 10 seconds, I didn't know if I'd heard him right. She was mine, before you, before this whole charade. He kept going, words pouring out like he'd been holding them in for months. Accusations, memories, things Jenna had told him years ago, twisted and sharpened like knives. It wasn't just a scene, it was a confession, a breakdown, and a declaration of war, all in one breath. And the worst part? Some of what he said was true. Not the way he told it, not the obsession, but the history, yeah. Jenna had dated Ethan once, briefly, before we ever met. A 2-month fling that ended badly, and according to her, meant nothing. But clearly it meant something to him, something he never let go of. That moment, those 30 seconds, changed everything. Not just the wedding, not just the reception that never happened, but the way I looked at my family, at Jenna, at myself. I thought this was the day I'd become a husband. Instead, it became the day I learned just how far blood will go to poison joy. There's a kind of silence that doesn't feel empty. It feels loaded, like static before a thunderclap. That's what it felt like after Ethan's outburst. No one moved. No one breathed. Jenna's hand in mine had gone cold, but she hadn't let go. Not yet. The officiant stuttered mid-sentence, eyes darting between us and Ethan. A couple in the third row exchanged panicked glances. My Aunt Denise slowly reached for her mimosa like she was watching a reality TV show unfold live. And me? I just stared at Ethan, hoping I'd misheard him, that maybe this was some twisted attempt at a joke. But there was nothing funny in his face, only something darker, something cracked. I remember whispering, "Not now, man. Not here." But Ethan didn't care. He took a step forward. "I'm not going to sit here and pretend this is okay. You knew, Liam. You knew we had history. You knew how I felt." I wanted to shout that no. I didn't know how he felt, because he'd never said anything. Not to me. Not to anyone. I wanted to tell him that 2 months and 3 years ago doesn't equal soulmates. But none of that would have mattered. His mind was already made up. Jenna was shaking now. Not crying, shaking. I turned to her. "Do you want me to say something, or do you?" She didn't answer. She just looked at Ethan, and her voice, when it came, was steady in a way that made my stomach twist. "You're embarrassing yourself, Ethan." It was like she slapped him with words. His mouth opened, then shut. His shoulders sagged slightly. But then, he laughed, just a low, bitter chuckle. Of course you defend him. Perfect, Liam. Always gets what he wants." And that's when I realized this wasn't about Jenna. Not really. This was about us, him and me. Every time I'd kept quiet, every time I let him take the spotlight, every time I bit my tongue so he didn't spiral, he had pocketed that silence like resentment. And now it was spilling out, poison and all. The best man speech, the toast, the brotherly blessing. It had all just exploded before it even began. Jenna turned to me. "Let's go. Let's step away. Just give it space." We walked out of our own wedding, past the confused guests, past my mom's frozen expression and my dad's blank stare. I heard someone start clapping, sarcastically. I didn't look back to see who. We ended up in the venue's bridal suite, which suddenly felt too bright, too clean, too fake. Jenna kicked off her heels and paced the room like a caged animal. "What the hell was that? Did you know? Did you know he felt that way?" "No," I said quickly. "I mean, I knew they had a thing. You told me. I figured it was ancient history." "It was," she snapped, "at least for me." Then she sank into the couch and buried her face in her hands. I sat across from her, running my thumb over the edge of my cufflink, the one Ethan gave me 2 days earlier, gold-plated, engraved with my initials. It felt heavier now. "I should have seen it," I said. "He's been weird for weeks, passive-aggressive, kept asking questions about you." "Why didn't you say something?" "Because he's my brother," I said softly, "and I didn't want to believe he'd do this." We sat there in silence again, except this time it was the kind that did feel empty. Minutes passed. Maybe 20. Someone knocked. It was my cousin Paige, holding my phone. "Your dad says Ethan left. People are leaving too. The caterers are asking what to do." "What about the ceremony?" I asked. She gave me a look. "Liam, no one's expecting that to continue." I stepped outside 10 minutes later, back into the Charleston air, sticky with late summer heat and disappointment. Chairs were empty, napkins strewn on the lawn, half-eaten appetizers. It looked like a party that had been hit by a storm. My mom was talking to the venue manager, probably spinning damage control. My dad lit a cigarette. He hasn't smoked in years. I walked past them both. They didn't stop me. That night, Jenna and I stayed at a hotel downtown. We didn't talk much. Just laid in bed, staring at the ceiling fan like it had answers. I ordered pizza. She didn't eat. When she finally spoke, she said, "Do you still want to marry me?" And I said yes, without hesitation, because what happened today didn't change how I felt about her. If anything, it made it clearer. We weren't victims of Ethan's breakdown. We were survivors of it. And the only thing I regretted was giving him space to poison something he was never part of to begin with. The next morning, I had over 50 messages, some from guests, some from friends who'd heard the gossip. One from my mom saying we should talk soon once emotions have calmed. But one stood out. It was from Ethan. No subject line, just 2 lines of text. You'll never understand what you took from me, but you will. Someday. Enjoy your fake happy ending. I didn't respond. I didn't even show it to Jenna. Some endings are quiet by choice, but this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of the unraveling. I didn't respond to Ethan's message. I stared at it for a long time, though, long enough for the screen to dim and go black twice. His words sat in my inbox like a warning label. Vague, bitter, meant to sting. But what hit me hardest wasn't what he said. It was what he didn't. No apology, no explanation, just blame. As if his pain gave him the right to ruin the most important day of my life. The morning after the non-wedding, Jenna and I decided to leave Charleston early. We canceled the second night at the hotel, packed up our things, and drove in silence for most of the ride home. She held my hand the whole way, but I could feel the weight in the air, like something hadn't finished unraveling. And I was right. We didn't go back to my place. We went to hers, smaller, quieter, filled with plants and post-it notes and the faint scent of lavender from a candle she forgot to blow out the night we got engaged. I needed stillness, and her apartment had that. But around 3 p.m., I got a call from Paige, my cousin who'd been holding my phone at the wedding. "You should see this," she said. "Check Facebook." I opened the app and saw it immediately. My mom had posted one of her classic, "Let me twist the narrative without saying names" status updates. It's heartbreaking when someone you raised chooses to humiliate the family instead of protect it. Prayers for peace and healing. Weddings should be about love, not betrayal. It had already been liked 76 times. Half the family had commented hearts and hands folded emojis. I felt something sharp rise in my chest. Not anger, not yet, just disbelief. Jenna leaned over my shoulder, read the post, and said, "Are you kidding me?" I shook my head. Classic mom. Frame the story before the truth gets out. That's when Paige texted again. "Also, I think you should see this video." She sent me a link to a private Dropbox folder. Password protected. I typed in the password she gave. July 4th. It opened to a video file titled Ethan01.move. I hit play. The camera was shaky, like it had been filmed on someone's phone during a house party. Ethan was sitting on a patio chair, drink in hand, talking to someone off camera. At first, it seemed like nothing, just small talk. But then I heard him say Jenna's name. "She's with Liam now, yeah. But she was mine first. She said she loved me. They always come back, you know." He laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. I could ruin that wedding with one sentence if I wanted to. I paused the video. My pulse kicked up. What the hell is this? Paige texted again. That was 2 months ago, 4th of July. I didn't say anything because I thought he was drunk. But after what happened yesterday, I went through some old videos. There's more. I called her. "Why didn't you show me this earlier?" "Because I didn't think he'd actually do it, Liam. I didn't think he'd cross the line." "He's not just hurt," I said quietly. "He's obsessed." And that's when the shift happened inside me. Up until that point, I'd been focused on damage control, trying to salvage the pieces, explain away the drama, keep my head down like I always had growing up. But now it felt personal. Now it felt dangerous. That night, I went digging. I went back through old emails, old texts. I remembered something Ethan had said at the rehearsal dinner that hadn't registered at the time. Funny how people think digital lives stay private. At the time, I thought he was being his usual smug self. Now, I wasn't so sure. I logged into one of my old cloud backups, the one Jenna and I used during our first few months of dating to share photos. I hadn't touched it in over a year, but when I opened the file history, I noticed something strange. A new download from 2 weeks ago. Someone had accessed the account from a device I didn't recognize. A shiver crawled down my spine. I checked the IP log and location data. It pinged from a neighborhood 20 minutes away. Ethan's. I confronted him the next day. I didn't go alone. I brought my friend Marcus, a guy who's 6'4", built like a linebacker, and doesn't flinch easily. We showed up at Ethan's apartment mid-morning. I knocked once. Ethan answered shirtless, confused. "What the hell?" "You accessed my cloud account." He blinked, hesitated, then smirked. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "You downloaded private files, pictures, messages between Jenna and me, and you used them to fuel whatever fantasy you're living in." He looked at Marcus, then back at me. "You came here to fight?" "No. I came here to say this. Stay away from her, and stay out of our lives. I don't care what you think happened 3 years ago. You ended it. She moved on. I moved in. That's life." Ethan scoffed. "She was never yours." "No," I said. "She chose me, and you can't stand that." He didn't speak after that. I turned and walked away. But I knew it wasn't over. Not yet. You don't pour years of resentment into a single outburst and then just stop. Still, I'd drawn the line, and this time, I wasn't stepping back. You think after someone publicly tries to sabotage your wedding, they'd have the decency to disappear for a while. But Ethan wasn't done. If anything, calling him out only made things worse. It started 2 nights after I confronted him. Jenna and I were making dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta and a bottle of wine we never got to open at the reception. For a brief moment, it felt almost normal. Like maybe we could move on. Like we could put this whole mess behind us. That's when Jenna's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, then froze. "It's a blocked number," she said quietly. I watched her hesitate before tapping the message. Her face changed. Subtle at first. Eyebrows pulling together, lips parting slightly. "What is it?" I asked. She turned the screen toward me. It was a single message. "You're pretending. You know you still think about me." No name, no context. Just that. I felt my jaw tighten. "Do you think it's him?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked to the kitchen drawer, pulled out a small bundle of papers, and dropped them on the table. "These started a few weeks ago. I didn't know what to do with them. I stared down at the envelopes. No return address. All typed. Each one short. Cryptic. A sentence or two at most. Saw you at the farmer's market. Still beautiful. Bet Liam doesn't know the full story. You were happier with me." I looked up at her, stunned. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wasn't sure, and I didn't want to pour gasoline on something I thought might just burn out on its own." But it hadn't burned out. It was growing. "Did Ethan ever say anything to you? Anything weird? After we started dating?" She hesitated, then nodded. "He called me last year. Said he was happy for us. Said I'd made a safe choice. I thought it was just classic Ethan. Condescending, but harmless." "It's not harmless anymore," I said. "It's calculated." That night, I didn't sleep. I kept replaying everything in my head. The look in Ethan's eyes at the wedding, the video Paige sent, the texts, the silent anger that had been simmering under the surface for years. This wasn't just jealousy, it was fixation. and it was turning into something worse. The next morning, I filed a police report. It felt dramatic, but I knew if I waited until something happened, something real, I'd regret it. The officer we spoke to was polite, but clearly skeptical. No explicit threats, no name tied to the messages, no proof they were from Ethan. But he took our statements, made copies of the notes, and told us to keep a record of everything moving forward. Jenna was quiet on the drive home. "Do you think I led him on?" she asked suddenly. The question hit me like a slap. "What? No, Jenna, absolutely not. I mean, we did go out. I kissed him. I even stayed over once, early on. Maybe I didn't end things as clearly as I thought." I pulled over, turned to her. "This isn't about what you did. It's about what he's doing now. You told him it was over. He didn't listen. That's not confusion. That's obsession." She nodded, but I could tell she still carried the guilt. That's what people like Ethan do. They make you second-guess yourself. Rewrite your own history until you're not even sure where it all went wrong. A few days passed. We changed our numbers. We blocked everything, deleted old cloud accounts, switched to private profiles. But the messages kept coming, now through fake emails, different subject lines, always the same tone. "You think he's your future, but he's just a placeholder." I could still tell everyone about New Year's. New Year's. I felt a cold drop in my stomach. "What happened on New Year's?" I asked her. She blinked. Then her face drained of color. "He's talking about that night." "What night?" "After we broke up. A few weeks later, there was this party. I'd had too much to drink, and he offered to walk me back to my place. I don't remember much, but I let him stay over on the couch. I thought that was it." "Did anything happen?" "Not that I remember. He didn't say anything afterward. Never brought it up. Until now." I could see the panic rising behind her eyes. "Do you think he's going to lie about it? Use it against me?" "I think he already is." We decided to install cameras, one in the hallway, one at the front door, one in the parking lot, aimed at her car. It felt ridiculous, like we were prepping for a siege, but I knew better than to brush off someone like Ethan. He didn't just want Jenna back. He wanted control. He wanted me to feel powerless. And for the first time in years, I didn't. Because I was done playing nice. Done waiting for him to blow over. I wasn't the quiet brother anymore. The second choice. The background character in his twisted little story. No. I was the one holding the pen now, and if he wanted a war, he just got one. I wasn't looking for revenge. At least, not at first. I just wanted him to stop. To leave us alone. To disappear into whatever corner of the world broken men go when their lies collapse around them. But Ethan wasn't disappearing. He was escalating. And the worst part? I knew no one would believe me until he crossed some irreversible line. Because that's how this works, right? You're overreacting. You're imagining things. It's just family drama. Until it's not. So I started collecting everything. Every message. Every fake email. Screenshots. Security cam footage. I made a folder called Insurance and added to it daily. But I didn't expect the file that would blow this whole thing wide open was one he made himself. It started with an old Google Drive. Years ago, Ethan and I worked on a failed podcast project together. Something about music, life advice, mostly just an excuse to hear ourselves talk. We shared a drive full of scripts, audio tests, random video files. I hadn't touched it since 2020. But one night, I remembered it. I don't know why. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was desperation. I logged back in using the old password. Most of the files were untouched, except one. J. Reeves, final.move. Date modified, 6 weeks ago. I stared at the name. My stomach dropped. I clicked it. The video began with Ethan sitting in his apartment, dressed in a button-down shirt like he was recording a job interview. He looked directly into the camera, and then he started talking. "This isn't easy to say," he began, "but I have to speak up, because what's happening is wrong." My skin prickled. Jenna and I had a relationship, a real one, and while she may not admit it now, she loved me. We shared something powerful, something honest, but then Liam came in and rewrote history. He leaned in closer. "I'm making this video in case something happens, in case they try to twist the story." Twist the story? He was trying to preemptively paint himself as the victim. But it got worse. He started describing the night Jenna let him crash on her couch, New Year's Eve. He hinted at something more happening, something Jenna never told me. But as I listened, I realized what he was doing. He wasn't telling the truth. He was building a lie, one he could weaponize later. There were no details, just implications. Phrases like, "she didn't say no," and "we were both adults." I paused the video, my hands shaking, not because I believed him, but because I knew exactly what this was. Insurance, just like mine. He made that video to use against her, to plant doubt, to spin a false narrative if she ever went public. If the police got involved, if she tried to call him out for the messages, the stalking, the manipulation. It was psychological warfare. And in that moment, I stopped caring about family ties. I downloaded the file, saved it in 5 different places, sent one copy to a lawyer friend I trusted, sent another to Paige. I wasn't going to let Ethan play the long game unchallenged, but I didn't stop there. I uploaded the video to a hidden YouTube link, unlisted, time-stamped, titled simply, "Statement from Ethan Carter." I didn't share it, not yet, but it existed, and for the first time, I wasn't the one playing defense. That night, I told Jenna everything. I showed her the video. She watched silently, arms crossed over her chest, eyes never blinking. When it ended, she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just whispered, "He's going to try to ruin me." "Not if I ruin his plan first," I said. We agreed on a new plan. No more waiting. No more hoping it stops. We filed for a protective order. The lawyer drafted a cease and desist letter, backed by the footage, the messages, the videos from the wedding. We had evidence. We had motive. And now, we had leverage. 3 days later, Ethan finally broke his silence again. This time, it was a voicemail. "I don't know what you think you're doing," he said, voice low, almost shaking. "But you're going to regret it. If you go through with this, if you make this public, I swear to God, Liam, I'll burn it all down." I played the message twice, then I saved it in the folder. No anger, no fear, just documentation. I used to think family meant protecting each other, even when they didn't deserve it. But I've learned something since then. Blood doesn't mean loyalty. Behavior does. And Ethan? He stopped being family the moment he tried to rewrite our lives into his fantasy. Now I'm just making sure the ending he wrote never gets told. The envelope was thinner than I expected. Just a few pages, folded neatly, but it felt like it weighed 100 pounds when I pulled it from the mailbox. Restraining order granted. That's what the cover page said. Bold letters stamped across government letterhead. Official, legal, real. It didn't feel like a victory. It felt like a line drawn in sand, one that shouldn't have needed to be drawn in the first place. Jenna was in the kitchen when I walked back inside. She looked up from her laptop, searching my face for some kind of answer. "It's done," I said. She stood slowly, like her legs weren't sure if they should move yet. Then she walked over and took the papers from my hand, flipping through them silently. "I thought I'd feel safer," she said after a long pause. "Me too. Because here's the thing, no one tells you about restraining orders. They're just paper. They don't change the person you're trying to protect yourself from. They don't erase the history, or the tension, or the fear that maybe, just maybe, they won't care about consequences, especially not someone like Ethan." For 3 days after the order was delivered, nothing happened. No calls, no messages, no social media burner accounts. It was the quietest it had been in weeks. Too quiet. Then came the package. It arrived on a Wednesday morning, just left on our doorstep with no return address. No courier, just sitting there. Brown cardboard, taped shut, no writing on the outside. Jenna and I stared at it for a long time. "Could be from a friend," she said. "Could be from him." I grabbed a pair of scissors and sliced it open, slowly, carefully. Inside was a single object, a framed photo. It was us, me and Jenna, from 2 years ago. A picture I didn't remember anyone taking. We were sitting at a cafe downtown, laughing about something, completely unaware of the camera. I flipped the frame over. Taped to the back was a yellow post-it note. "You always looked better when you weren't pretending." That was the moment I knew. Ethan had never really left. He'd just shifted tactics. It wasn't about explosions anymore. It was erosion, mind games, psychological warfare dressed as sentimentality. I called the police. Again. They took the frame, took the note, promised to add it to the report. But I could tell, without fingerprints or a direct admission, this was going nowhere. Just another file in a system designed to react, not prevent. That night, I didn't sleep. Neither did Jenna. We sat on the couch with all the lights on, a baseball bat next to the door, like it could actually protect us from someone who knew how to slip past locks and logic. We weren't scared of violence, not exactly. We were scared of doubt, of feeling watched, of being pulled back into a story we never agreed to be in. The next morning, I made a decision. I pulled up the unlisted video, Ethan's little confession, and I clicked share. Not to the world, just to 10 people. Family, friends. People who had been fed Ethan's twisted version of the story. The ones still sitting on the fence, unsure who to believe. I didn't add a caption. Just the link. Let the footage speak for itself. The fallout came fast. Some people texted apologies, others just stopped replying. But the most important message came from Ethan's old college roommate, a guy I barely knew. He said, "You're not the first person he's done this to." Turns out, there was another girl. Before Jenna. Same pattern, short relationship, sudden fixation. Private threats. A breakup that turned into a long, drawn-out campaign of guilt and obsession. And just like us, she thought she was alone. Until she wasn't. We connected with her. She shared her story. And suddenly, everything made sense. Ethan wasn't lashing out because of love. He was lashing out because control had been taken away. That was his pattern. And now, his pattern was broken. It didn't feel like justice. Not yet, but it felt like something. Like maybe, just maybe, the truth was starting to matter. Like maybe he wasn't as powerful as he thought. And for the first time in weeks, Jenna and I slept through the night. No calls, no noise, no shadows. Just quiet. The kind that doesn't make your skin crawl. The kind you choose. That's the end of the story. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Glad you stuck around.